And Your Honor, before we begin, I'd like to invoke the rule.
Okay. All right. Mr. Navejas, do you have any witnesses?
Yes, and CPS investigator Martina Murillo.
Okay. All right, Miss Murillo, I'm gonna put you in the waiting room. All right. So Mr. Navejas, and so we are only addressing the issue of possession and access and who pays for the travel for the child. That's it, right?
Oh, you'd have to ask Mr. Saldivar, Your Honor. I'm not the one who requested a de novo.
Right. Well, I'm looking at, and so at the Mr. Saldivar, is that correct? I'm looking at your
De novo appeal.
yeah, the
Okay.
right. And so that's all I see, unless is there anything else?
Well, it's pretty specific. I did not agree with the designation of a temporary primary custodian. That's the first one. And there's reason for that. Also, access and possession and support, Judge.
Okay. Yep, that's what I saw. Okay. Are you guys set for a final already with Judge Salas?
Judge, no, Judge, I filed a jury request in this case. So as soon as we're done, I've already got discovery ready to be sent to Mr. Navejas. I've got discovery, and we asked for a jury trial. I anticipate it'll be like maybe 3 or 4 day trial, jury trial.
Okay. Okay. All right. So we're going to be addressing possession and access. So go ahead, Mr. Navejas. Call your first witness, please.
I believe this is Mr. Saldivar's case, but if you want me to go first, I will. It was his motion for the temporary orders.
Yes, but it's a de novo. Oh,
Okay.
So
Judge, and we can address that faster, more expeditious if you allow me to go first and
Okay.
Mr. Navejas. Okay?
Okay, that's fine. Call your first witness, please.
Your Honor, I call my client Caroline Jenna Cardenas.
All right,
Okay.
ma'am, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you give today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Saldivar.
I would ask that you please speak up so that the court reporter can pick up your testimony. Okay? State your full name for the record,
Carolyn Jenna Cardenas?
and you are married to Louis James Cardenas.
Correct.
You were served with a petition for divorce by your spouse, correct?
Correct.
And subsequently, you filed an answer and a counter petition through me.
Correct.
Now, in this particular case, you were served with an application for protective order,
Correct.
and that was filed by your husband,
Correct.
okay? And there was a hearing conducted on that application for protective order, and you did not appear, correct?
Correct.
Tell Judge Gutierrez the circumstances by which you did not appear for the hearing.
I just had my days mixed up. I was under the impression that because the court hearing was on February 29th. It was actually the leap year day, and that whole week I just was a little bit off, and I thought the hearing was on a Friday. It was actually on a Thursday, and it was just a mistake.
Prior to the hearing date, did you discuss with your husband the upcoming hearing with him?
Yes.
And you told him specifically that you were ready for Friday?
Yes.
Did Mr. Cardenas correct you and say, no, it's not on Thursday, it's not on Friday, it's on Thursday?
No.
As a result, you did not appear on Thursday.
Correct.
And Mr. Cardenas, your husband, obtained a default protective order.
Correct.
Okay, now we went to the first hearing and there was testimony where he testified that the basis for the protective order was stalking, correct?
Correct.
There was no allegations of you beating him up, or any of family members of the household, correct?
Correct.
Stalking, you testified that you never stalked him.
No.
Judge Salas granted that protective order based on the stalking statute, correct?
Correct.
And I'll ask your husband, nonetheless, as a result of that default protective order, and at the time that this order was signed, where were you living at?
I was living in the camper.
A camper? Be more specific.
Was living on at Fort Bliss RV Park in my camper with my daughter
Okay? And how long had you and your daughter been living there?
since July
Of what year?
2023.
Okay, let's backtrack. Your husband is in the military.
Yes,
What branch of service is he?
he's in the Marines.
He's in the Marines. How long has your husband been in the Marines?
20 years.
20 years. Okay. So this order was signed and you were living with your daughter in the camper, correct?
Correct.
Okay, this is Fort Bliss.
Yes.
Were you working at the time that this default order was entered?
No,
Okay, and how long had you not been working?
at least 4 years.
At least 4 years. And your husband doesn't dispute that you were stay-at-home mom, correct? What is your daughter's name and how old is she?
Selena Estelle Cardenas, and she's 7.
She's 7 years old. Okay. Let's start. When did you move to El Paso with your husband?
We moved when he got assigned to the Sergeant Major Academy. So last school year, we moved here
Okay. Prior to that, where was your husband stationed at?
in Camp Pendleton, California,
Okay. And how long were you there at Camp Pendleton?
3 years.
And prior to that, where were you stationed at?
In Omaha, Nebraska,
And prior to that,
Lincoln, Nebraska,
how long were you residing in Nebraska?
2 years.
Okay. And prior to that, where was your husband assigned?
He was assigned to Yuma.
Yuma, Arizona.
Yeah.
How long were you there?
3 years.
3 years, okay? And prior to that, where were you all residing?
Well, that's where we met. So we met in Yuma.
So you met in Yuma, Arizona.
Yes,
When were you married to him?
2016,
2016. What year was your daughter born?
2017.
2017. And during this time, your husband has been active in the Marines, correct?
Correct.
Has there been any deployments during your marriage?
Yes.
Tell the court, when was your husband deployed, where and when he was deployed?
Was deployed to Australia. He left around March 2022 and returned, 2022, and then he returned in October.
How many months was he in Australia?
6.
During those times and since the birth of your child, who has had care, custody, and control of your daughter?
Me.
And during that time, and listen to me carefully, have you ever been hospitalized for any mental illness?
No.
Have you ever seen a psychiatrist?
No.
Psychologist?
No.
A therapist?
No.
You have a family doctor,
Yes.
and he was the one that saw you, correct?
Correct.
During the course of your marriage, did you ever need to see your general practitioner for issues that you were having?
Yes.
And those symptoms were stress,
Yes.
anxiety,
Yes.
depression?
Yes.
And what did the doctor prescribe to you?
He prescribed me a medication called duloxetine.
Okay? All right. And did that help?
Yes.
But no hospitalization was required.
No.
No referral was done to a psychiatrist, psychologist, or therapist.
No.
And this happened right before your husband left for Australia.
Correct.
Your husband was aware of your condition, correct?
Correct.
And did your husband ever express the need to stay here to help you while he was pending deployment to Australia?
No.
Your husband went ahead and went to Australia, correct?
Correct.
And then he came back. During that time, you still continued to reside in the camper, correct?
When he was deployed, I was in California
Okay, and
and I resided in our home on base.
okay, and then after that, when did you all get the camper?
When he got orders to come to Texas, to El Paso and Fort Bliss, because we were only planning to be here for the one school year, I thought that it would be a fun opportunity to get a camper, and I would stay in the camper and take care of Selena while he went to school. So-
Okay. Even assuming when your husband was here in El Paso and prior to that, your husband had to report to work, correct?
Correct.
Tell the court what were his work hours,
He would like 8 to 4:30 probably.
8 to 4:30, and you were not working.
No,
You were stay-at-home mom.
I was a stay-at-home mom.
You would take care of your daughter.
I took care of my daughter and I was very involved in her school. I was volunteering at the school and helping her with her homework and taking care of our dogs and
All of that.
all of it.
And Mr. Cardenas was at work.
Yes.
When he came home, what part did he play in your daughter's life?
He didn't usually come home. Most of the time we were here, he was staying elsewhere. I don't know where he was most of the time.
You didn't know where, he never told you.
No, he was
Okay,
gone for weeks, months at a time without telling me where he was or even having any contact with my daughter for
So-
weeks at a time.
okay. So after Judge Salas issued the protective order, things changed.
Yes.
Tell the court what happened.
So the sheriff showed up at the camper to ask me to leave because I had missed the court date. So I left and I immediately came to the courthouse to try to resolve the issue. But it was kind of too close to the end of the day and there wasn't really anybody who could help me.
Okay.
So
And so subsequently, you were ordered out of the camper.
correct.
Where did you go live?
I actually ended up in a shelter.
And that's a shelter for battered women,
Yes.
okay? And tell me about how your husband took possession of Selena.
My stepson came to visit and for Louis' promotion to sergeant major. And I knew that things were bad and I didn't really feel comfortable, but I thought it was in her best interest to see her brother and be witness to his promotion to E9 in the Marine Corps, and because she really wanted to. So I allowed her to go to his promotion and visit her brother, and I haven't seen her since.
And what date was that? The last time you saw your daughter?
May 31st.
May 31st, okay? And we're October 30th. Have you seen your daughter since?
No.
Okay, so you have no camper, you have no daughter, and then Judge Salas enters orders, correct? Let me ask you this, do you have any family in the state of Washington?
No.
Does your husband have any family in Washington?
No.
Did your husband ever address the issue that he was gonna take your daughter?
No, I didn't know that he had taken her until I called the military police to do a welfare check, and they had informed me that the camper was gone and they couldn't tell me where he was.
And he never called you and said, I'm going to Washington? Okay?
No.
Let's move forward. Judge Salas entered orders naming your husband as a primary custodian. Correct?
Correct,
Okay? And even though you wanted primary custody, correct?
correct.
Do you have any support in the state of Washington?
No,
What about here in El Paso?
I have a lot of support here.
A lot of support here, correct? Your husband doesn't have any support system in Washington, as far as you know, correct?
Correct,
Okay? The judge ordered you to have possession and access, correct?
correct.
And those times are set forth in the temporary orders,
Mhm,
correct?
correct.
And tell the court, have you been able to exercise visitation?
No,
Please tell the court why you can't exercise the visitation.
because I have no money, no car, no.
Let's stop there. You have no money. Since the judge entered those orders, have you gained employment?
Yes,
And what type of work were you doing?
waitressing.
And how much money were you making in waitressing
It depends on the day,
today?
not really enough.
Not really enough. On a ballpark figure, how much do you make a month?
Mm, I made probably like, I could make like 250, 350 a week.
Okay.
So,
That income, are you able to find an apartment or shelter?
no,
Okay, with that amount of money, can you buy a car?
no,
Do you have any transportation whatsoever to
no,
go see your daughter?
no,
So you can't. You don't have a house. You don't have a car. What else?
well, and I can't even talk to her on the phone because he has me blocked. So he has me blocked on all communication for him and also blocked on my daughter's iPad. So I can't even text her or call her.
And that's contrary to what Judge Salas ordered,
That's
correct?
correct.
So tell the court, how many times have you actually spoken to your daughter since the temporary orders were entered?
3,
3. And have you addressed this issue with your husband?
yes.
And what reason has he given you for not allowing you to talk to your daughter?
Says that she doesn't want to talk to me and that after she talks to me, she gets too upset. So he's protecting her from me.
Does your husband monitor the calls with
Yes.
Selena?
I believe that my daughter gets upset on the phone calls because he forces her to put it on speaker and controls the conversation and tells her what to ask me, and that gets her upset.
Okay, ma'am. So 3 times since the temporary orders were entered, correct?
Correct.
And are you working now?
No,
You're not working.
no.
When was the last time you worked?
Last week.
Last week, okay? They laid you off from Village Inn,
Mhm,
correct?
mhm.
Say, don't say,
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
Ms. Cardenas, so now you find yourself here asking the court to change those temporary orders,
yes,
correct? Now, again, there was testimony in the prior hearing by a CPS worker, and again, you've never been committed to a mental hospital,
no,
never been under the care of a psychiatrist, psychologist, or a therapist.
no,
The information that that CPS worker got was given through your husband, correct?
and his family.
And
yes,
his family,
correct.
but you swear.
I'm going to
under oath
object to
you-
that, Your Honor, as calling for speculation. I don't think Ms. Cardenas would know her.
Sustained.
Okay, ma'am, so you're telling the court under oath that you've never been under care for your mental health?
No.
Okay, so now you're asking the court to change those orders.
Correct.
Tell the, and incidentally, Mr. Cardenas isn't providing you any money, correct?
No.
When was the last time he gave you money?
I couldn't tell you. It was months ago.
Months ago, prior to the issuance of the temporary orders?
Yes,
And Mr. Cardenas knew that you relied on him for shelter, clothing, and food, correct?
yes,
And since even before the temporary orders were issued, you have none of those things.
correct.
Tell Judge Gutierrez, what is it that you're asking for?
Well, first and foremost, I'd like to hug my daughter. And then I'd like to be able to take care of her.
Okay,
I'd like to have enough money to get a car so I can get back on my feet. I have a bachelor's degree. I can find a job very quickly. But you know, the jobs that I'm qualified for require me to have transportation.
tell Judge Gutierrez you have a degree. What do you have your degree in?
I have an associate's degree in social services and I have a bachelor's degree in business management with a concentration in human resources.
Most of those jobs require you to have transportation.
Yes,
Do some of those jobs also require you to travel
yes, locally, yes,
locally? Okay. So you're asking the court to let you have your daughter take care of her,
yes,
and if not, to at least have to be able to see her.
Yeah.
Okay, and you need money for a vehicle.
mhm,
Yes,
yes,
okay, tell the court in terms of the fact that you are unable to go see your daughter. if you had a vehicle, would you be able to at least go see her in Washington?
No, because I don't know where she is.
And your husband has not told you where he's at,
No.
correct? And the military won't release that information to you
No, because of the protective order.
because of the protective order, okay? And you're also what about housing? You're staying at this place, correct?
Mhm.
Say-
Yes,
okay.
yes.
Please tell the court, what are the circumstances by where you're living at and for how long?
I've been living for about a month at a shelter, a Via Maria. It's a Catholic shelter, downtown.
Okay, and prior to that, where were you living at?
A shelter for domestic violence.
Okay.
And I moved, when he left the state is when I moved into Via Maria. But when he was here, I felt really unsafe with him around. And
And has there been violence during the family?
yes,
Did you ever file an application for protective order against him?
I tried to, yes, but he had already filed.
Okay, so he beat you to the punch,
He
in
beat
other
me
words.
to it, yeah.
Have you ever assaulted your husband,
No,
caused any family violence?
no,
And today you're asking for the relief you just testified to.
yes,
Let's talk finally about the telephone access, correct?
yes,
You're telling the judge, asking the judge to order him not to block you
correct,
and to allow any conversation to be unmonitored
correct,
and not to give you an excuse, well, your daughter doesn't want to talk to you.
correct.
Did you have any issue with your daughter prior to the issuance of this protective order?
No,
And there had never been a CPS investigation
No.
against you?
no,
Never been arrested for abusing your daughter?
no,
Have you explained to your husband the effects of him denying you access and possession with your daughter? Have you told him
I haven't been able to because he has me blocked.
he has you blocked? Okay. Your Honor, I'm going to pass the witness.
Okay, Mr. Navejas?
Okay, what do you do for a living currently, Ms. Cardenas?
Currently, I'm not employed.
Okay, and have you been seeking employment?
Yes.
Okay, what jobs have you applied for?
I mean, I have applied for a lot of jobs, but right now the transportation, I get job offers.
Objection,
and
Your Honor, non-responsive.
Sustained?
Which jobs have you applied for? You said there
I
was a
don't have-
lot, which ones?
I don't have that on hand right now.
Okay, you don't remember which jobs you've applied for?
Yeah, I've applied for a job with El Paso Human Services. I've applied for a job with I can't remember all of them, but because I've been waitressing for a little while now, so it's been a couple months since I've applied.
Okay, when did you obtain your bachelor's degree?
In August of 2023.
Okay, and since then, you haven't sought employment using your bachelor's degree?
I have sought employment using my bachelor's degree, but not having a vehicle makes it very hard for me to find work.
Okay, did you not have a vehicle in August of 2023?
My Louis and I were sharing a vehicle. I had a car in California, and we decided when we came here that we were only gonna need one vehicle because he would allow me to drive him to school and use the truck while he was in school, but then he took that away and left me stranded with no vehicle.
Okay, and the judge ordered that both you and Mr. Cardenas obtain a psychological evaluation. Have you obtained your psychological evaluation?
Yes,
Okay, and who is the psychologist that performed the evaluation?
she's at El Paso Behavior Health. And then
Okay.
I have another psychologist named Tamara Zek.
Okay, and
Can
how
you
often do you
spell-
see Ms.
I'm sorry, can you spell that name for me?
Tamara, Tamara, Zek, Zec.
Thank you.
Okay, and where is Ms. Zek located?
She's on Doctor on Demand, virtual.
Okay, and how often have you spoken to her?
I speak to her regularly every 4 weeks.
Okay, but didn't you previously testify that you don't see a psychologist, a psychiatrist, or anything like that?
Correct, but I had to get a psychological exam for the court.
Okay, but you just testified that you see her every 4 weeks. Is that
Right,
part
if
of
I
the
if I
requirement?
need to.
Okay, and how often do you need to talk to her?
I haven't talked to her in a while, couple weeks.
Okay, and how many times total have you spoken with Ms. Zek?
I don't know.
Approximately ballpark figure.
I really don't know. I'd have to look at my medical records.
Okay, so you're telling the court that it's happened so frequently or so many times that you don't know how many times it is? I mean, you can't say if it was more than 5 or less than 10 or more than 15 or
I don't know. I don't know. I'd have to
okay,
look at my medical records.
okay. And you testified that you have support in El Paso. What family members do you have that live in El Paso?
I don't have family in El Paso. I have friends.
Okay. And how many friends do you have in El Paso?
A lot.
Okay. And where does your family live?
In New York?
Okay. And are you trying to go back to New York?
No.
Okay. Are you staying in El Paso?
Yes.
Okay. And why are you staying in El Paso if your family's not here and you've testified
Because
it's
I think
difficult to get a job?
because I think it's in the best interest of my daughter.
Okay. How so?
Um, her therapist is here. She has friends here. Um, really, it's my family environment is not the best environment for her in New York. And I really would like her to become bilingual. So, because she was starting to be bilingual here, and she's very smart. She wants to be in the gifted and talented program at school in El Paso School District. And I wanted to do that with her last year, but we had so much conflict in our life, and the parental involvement was a lot. So I regret it, but we did not do that. And then now I'd like to put her back in the gifted and talented program so that she can work on being bilingual.
Okay. And what was the last job you held before waitressing?
The last job I held before waitressing was in Omaha, Nebraska, and that was at Goodwill. I was a work experience trainer, so I would help people with disabilities learn job skills and navigate their first job as they transitioned out of high school and into the next phase of their life.
Okay. Do you know where your daughter currently attends school?
No,
Okay. And do you know if she even attends school?
no.
Okay. And when was the last time you saw her in person?
May 31st.
Okay. So that was about 5 months ago?
Correct.
Okay. And in those 5 months, how many times have you spoken to her?
3.
Okay, just the 3 you mentioned. Okay. And you mentioned a little earlier that your family life back in New York isn't the best for your daughter. Why isn't it good for her?
I just think that there's not a lot of opportunities there, and she's very smart and I have a lot of goals, and she's just like me with that. So I feel like here is better.
Okay. Why are there limited opportunities in New York?
Because I'm from a very small town.
Okay, got it. And what is your current schedule like? When would you be available to speak with or have video conferences with your daughter?
I can arrange my schedule to have video conference or phone calls with her anytime.
Okay, and you're willing to do that?
I am willing to do that, yes.
Okay. And let's talk a little bit about the protective order. The protective order was granted on the grounds of stalking.
Yes.
Were you stalking your husband?
No.
Okay. Were you calling him hundreds of times a day?
I was calling him and also my daughter was calling him. A lot of those phone calls that he's accusing me of were his daughter crying for him and trying to get him to answer the phone because he blocked her for a period of time too on the iPad. So she would go weeks and be missing him and confused and wanting to know where he was and having panic attacks. So she was calling him as well.
Okay, and how old is your daughter?
7,
7? And do you have any objection with the judge interviewing your daughter?
not at all.
Okay. And there is still an active protective order out against you?
Yes,
Okay. And do you still call Mr. Cardenas?
I called in attempt to speak to my daughter, which is in the court order. So
Okay, and
Yes.
how often were you calling?
when?
Well, you said you called since the temporary orders were entered. How
Well,
often have
since
you
the
called?
temporary orders were entered, they say I should have daily phone calls. So I feel like that means I should be able to call him every day, but I'm blocked, so I can't.
Okay. And when did you discover that you were blocked?
He's had me blocked for a long time. Before the protective order, he's had me blocked.
Okay. And do you have any idea why he blocked you?
No,
Okay. And you've tried speaking with his chain of command?
yes,
Okay. And how often did you call them?
I don't know.
Okay, was it more
Whenever
than
there-
once?
Yeah, probably whenever there was an incidence of violence or aggression, I would call them. Yeah,
Okay. And was Mr. Cardenas disciplined as a result?
I have no idea.
Okay. And
I believe he received a counseling, but I don't know that for certain.
okay. And how long did you and Mr. Cardenas reside together?
Well, when we came here, I would consider us separated. We separated in California. I came here in the camper to support him and try to co-parent with him. But we have not lived together as a married couple since March 10th of 2023. And on March 10th of 2023, there was actually in California on Camp Pendleton, there was a protective order put in place by the military against him that did include his daughter and I, because of his violence.
Okay. And have you provided a copy of that to the court?
Yes,
Okay. All right. And do you intend on introducing that as an exhibit?
I guess I can. I didn't bring it with me, but I can generate it to the court.
I have it on the phone.
Okay, and then we can provide you with a copy. I
Okay.
didn't mark it as an exhibit because I wanted to focus on the de novo.
Okay, understood. And do you have any idea what your daughter's life is like in Washington?
No,
Okay. I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
Okay, Mr. Salivar, anything else of this witness?
No further questions of my
Okay, oh,
Fine.
I do, the testimony was so, how is it that you ended up losing your daughter? I mean, you talked about the graduation and then she was gone. What happened?
you'd have to ask Mr. Cardenas. I don't know. I was under the impression that he was gonna return her to me like he had before. And next thing I knew, she was gone.
Okay, so you let him have a visit so that she could go to the graduation and then she never came back?
Correct.
Okay, and so are you asking for custody, ma'am, or just to
Yes.
enforce the visits?
I want custody.
And where are you going to live with this child?
Well, I'd like to ask for the camper back because Mr. Cardenas bought that camper for my daughter and I to live in. He wasn't living in that camper.
Okay,
That was
I
me.
can't, this is a de novo just on possession and access. I can't give you a camper. I can't give you anything. All I can give you is a child or
The
visits.
the other thing is that I have received a grant where I will get 1 year of free rent. So I have a caseworker who's willing to help me and it's called rapid rehousing. And as soon as I get my daughter back, I'll have that.
Okay, any questions in light of my questions?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, call your next witness, please, Mr. Santivar.
I would call the petitioner Louis James Cardenas.
All right, Mr. Cardenas, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you give today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Santivar.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Santivar.
Thank you, Your Honor. State your name.
Luis James Cardenas.
Okay, Mr. Cardenas, you've heard your wife testify as to your service in the military, correct?
Correct.
And you don't disagree that you've been with the Marines at least 20 years?
That's correct.
And you don't dispute the fact that you have been transferred from city to city, state to state, correct?
Correct.
And during those times that you were working, you would go to work at 8:30, correct?
Not in El Paso.
Okay, but when would you go to work?
When we were in El Paso, they allowed us to be able to take our children to school and pick them up. So my work day
Okay,
while I was at the Sergeant Major Academy was from 9 to 3.
okay, let's backtrack. The other places that you were stationed at, you would have to go in at a certain hour, correct?
It was
Yes or
flexible.
no?
Yes.
And what time did you have to report to work?
I would have to be accounted for by 8 in the morning, but that doesn't mean I had to be on site at 8 in the morning.
But it was 8 o'clock, basically.
It would depend. There would be times where we would be in different locations or we would work from home during COVID. There was different circumstances of where I physically had to be at what time.
Objection non-responsive?
Sustained.
Sir, answer my question. Basically, you had to be at work at 8 o'clock with a few exceptions, correct?
Sure. Yes.
And then what time would you get out?
The normal workday ends at 4:30.
4:30, correct? And between 8 and 4:30, somebody had to take care of your child, correct?
Before.
Yes or no?
Yes.
And that was your wife, correct?
Sometimes.
Sometimes, sir. Your wife's role in this marriage was to be a wife and a homemaker, correct?
I'm not sure of what her role actually was.
Sir, you're not sure of what her role was in the marriage? Is that what you're telling me?
Yes.
Well, who would take care of your daughter?
There was times where she was in daycare and then she would be at school and then I would have to leave work to pick her up and then she would be with me.
Mr. Cardenas, listen to me. Throughout the marriage, Caroline Cardenas would have care, custody, and control of your daughter, yes or no?
In the early stages, yes.
The early days. What do you mean by the early days?
Prior to her going to school.
Prior to her going to school. And sir, you heard her testimony that she was tired, stressed, felt anxiety and depression, and she wanted to go see her regular doctor. You heard her testimony.
I heard her say that.
Yes. And you heard a testimony that she has never been under the care of a psychologist, psychiatrist, or a therapist. Did you hear that testimony?
I heard that, yes.
Okay. And I asked you the last hearing, do you know of any psychologist, psychiatrist, or therapist that your wife has seen other than her family doctor?
I don't know their names, but she discussed being in different types of counseling.
Sir, listen to what I'm asking you. Do you know of anybody other than her family doctor that has seen her for her mental health? Yes or no?
Yes.
And if you do, you'll provide that information to the court, correct?
I don't have access to her medical records.
You don't have access. Well, how would you know if she saw somebody other than her family doctor?
She told me she had a standing appointment with the community counseling center while we were in Camp Pendleton.
Community counselor. Was that a psychiatrist?
Yes, they were all-
Psychiatrist, huh?
Yes, they're mental health professionals.
And when did this happen?
This is while we were in Camp Pendleton.
And
prior
where
to
was
being
that?
in El Paso.
What time frame?
We were there from the summer of 2020 until the summer of 2023.
Okay, for a full year,
We were there for 3 years.
3 years. Okay, can you give me a month and a year where she supposedly went to go see a community therapist?
I think she told me it really ramped up while I was on deployment. So I left in April of 2022 and returned in October. So
Okay,
as far as
let
I
me
know,
stop
during
you
that
there. You took off, correct? You were deployed.
I was deployed.
You went to Australia
Correct.
and you were there 6 months.
Correct.
Are you telling the court that your wife went to somebody else other than her testimony that she saw her family doctor? Is that what you're telling me?
That's what she's told me.
Okay, but you don't have any proof otherwise, do you?
No, I don't
Yes
have
or no?
pictures. No,
You don't have proof of that, okay? So in essence, you're relying on her to produce the records of a psychologist, therapist, or psychiatrist that she allegedly saw other than her family doctor. Is that what you're telling me?
we would have access to them. Yes.
Okay. Now, you got CPS involved, correct?
Can you think you're asking if I called CPS?
Yes.
No.
Why would they get involved if you didn't call?
I'm pretty sure Carolyn called them.
Carolyn called CPS to report herself?
No, I think that she tried to get them to investigate me, and it didn't turn out that way.
You're alleging that Caroline Cardenas called CPS to investigate you, correct?
Correct.
And they wound up, in fact, investigating her, correct?
Yes.
The CPS worker that's you brought here to testify today, do you know if she ever spoke with your wife?
Yes.
And you and your family provided information to the CPS worker, correct?
I'm not aware of anyone in my family speaking to her.
Okay. And when you spoke to the CPS worker, did you provide her with any medical records reflecting your wife's mental condition?
No, I don't think so. I don't have.
Okay. So real simple. You spoke with the CPS worker, but you never provided her with any records that reflect the mental history of your wife. Yes or no?
No.
No. Okay. Nonetheless, at the last hearing, the CPS worker questioned your wife's mental history, correct?
I think so. I mean, we would have to
You
ask her.
think so? What did you tell the CPS worker?
During our interview, I just answered her questions. I mean, I don't know specifically.
Mr. Cardenas, you told that CPS worker that your wife was crazy. Did you tell her that?
No, I did not use those
And,
words.
and you also told the CPS worker that your wife tried to jump out of a moving vehicle. Yes or no?
Yes.
And in fact, that incident resulted because you had taken your wife to look for a car, correct? On a particular date, right?
We did go look at a car, yes.
Yes. And after that, you were driving back home and you got into an argument with Caroline, didn't you?
She was upset that I wouldn't purchase her a vehicle.
She got upset at you because you told her you were going to buy her vehicle and then you changed your mind. Isn't that true?
No, I did not tell her I was going to buy her a vehicle.
And actually, she asked that you stop the vehicle so she could get out of the car, the vehicle that you were in, correct?
She would ask me to go to different locations. So she never asked to stop. She has to go home, then she has to go to the hospital, and then has to go to the police station.
Sir, listen to my question. She asked you to stop the car so she could get off. Yes or no?
No,
And you didn't stop the vehicle and it kept going, correct?
she never asked to stop. She was upset
She asked
that
you to stop, and when she wouldn't, she opened the door, correct?
she did not ask me to stop. She did open the door and attempt to jump out of a moving vehicle.
And she pleaded with you to stop the car so she could get off. Isn't that true?
No,
Okay, sir, there was a protective order granted against you in past years, correct?
no,
No, you're telling this
No.
court under oath that no protective order was rendered against you for the protection of your wife and your daughter?
no. That I was not issued a military protective order. What I was given from my commander was a no contact order, which just meant that I
Why
had to
was that
refrain
no
from.
contact order given to you?
That was given because of an inspector general complaint that my wife made against my command.
And
And
that
so-
complaint was based on violence that you committed against her, correct?
No,
When was that no contact order given?
I think it was in February or March of
Of what year?
2023.
And that's the same year that you moved to El Paso, correct?
We moved to El Paso in the summer in July of that year. So a
Yes
few
or
months
no?
later.
It was the same year that you all
Yes.
moved to El Paso, correct?
Yes,
What month did you get here to El Paso?
July.
July. So this no contact order, which you claim was issued in February, right?
Yes,
So March, April, May, and you got here in June, right?
I left my unit in June, and then we spent time in Arizona before we got here. So
Okay. And you're telling the court under oath that there was no protective order, correct?
correct.
And the military investigated that complaint against you, didn't they?
The complaint wasn't against me; it was against my chain of command, my leadership, because Carolyn made allegations against them. I'm not exactly sure the nature of the complaint as far as the specifics. I just know that basically there was a no contact order just to protect the institution. As far as I was told, I was kept in the dark during that whole process.
Let me stop you there. This no contact order was issued to protect the institution. What institution are you talking about?
The Marines.
The Marines. So this no contact order was supposedly issued to protect the Marines. That's what you're
My
telling
wife-
Judge
my-
Gutierrez.
My wife had made over 100 phone calls to different members of the chain of command all over Camp Pendleton. And so they can't enforce anything against her. So to prevent her from being able to use me to communicate or get information from me, I was not allowed to communicate with her.
Sir, the military investigated Caroline Cardenas' complaint, correct?
Yes.
And you're telling Judge Gutierrez you have no clue why this complaint was filed. That's what you're telling the court, correct?
I don't know the specifics. I can speculate, but I don't know exactly. I never saw the actual report.
So you're telling me that the military officials met with you and issued a no contact order without you knowing why it was issued? Is that what you're telling me?
I know it was issued because she filed a inspector general complaint.
Excuse me, I didn't hear you.
I was issued the no contact order because she filed the complaint against the unit.
And that complaint was for family violence, yes or no?
No.
Okay, well, what other reason do you feel that it was issued for?
She made, from what I had heard, is that she demanded that they place me in some type of like mental health, issue, like something to do with mental health, that she was trying to coerce them into taking some kind of actions against me, and they refused to do that, or they just didn't see any reason to do that. So
supposedly this no contact issue was ordered because Caroline said something was wrong with your mental health, correct?
you'd have to ask her that.
Okay. Well, nonetheless, you got a chance to tell the military officials your side of the story, correct?
No,
You did not.
no,
You stood there silently and just got served with a no contact order. That's what you're telling me, correct?
correct.
Mr. Cardenas, isn't it true that the military investigated this incident based on her complaints of family violence, that they decided to issue a no contact order, correct?
No,
Sir, you would agree with me if the military officials that investigated this case would have felt that there was no foundation or truth to that, they would have never issued this order, correct?
no, those no contact orders are routinely issued whenever there's a complaint involving people, just to prevent anyone from, speaking out about an open investigation.
And what was wrong with having an open investigation?
There's nothing wrong with it, but to talk about it is inappropriate.
Why is it inappropriate to talk about it?
I think it has to do with maintaining the integrity of the process.
Maintaining the integrity of the what?
Of the process, the investigative
Of the process, sir.
Yes.
So the Marine cares more about the reputation and the process rather than to protect victims of family violence. Is that what you want me to believe?
Okay, you know what?
I
We're
think-
going into a lot of stuff. We're short on time. I need to
I'm
hear
sorry,
about
Judge. I'll move
possession
forward.
access. Okay,
Okay. Sir, you were ordered to allow your wife possession and access, correct?
Correct.
And in fact, that order that Judge Salas entered allows your wife telephone access, correct?
Correct.
And since that order was signed, Caroline Cardenas has only been able to speak 3 times to your daughter, yes or no?
That sounds right. Yes.
That sounds right. Why is it only 3 times when she was allowed daily contact at 7 p.m.?
The first day that the order was issued, I allowed Carolyn to speak to Selena, and
Let me
immediately-
stop you there. You allowed, it was up to you for you to allow overriding
allow, I
the
mean,
judge's order.
when I say allow, I mean that I set, I unblocked her and made it, clear that she could call, that she was available to speak.
Okay, sir, you unblocked her, correct?
Yes.
Prior to the issuance of that protective order, you had Caroline Cardenas blocked, right? Yes or no?
I had Carolyn blocked. Yes.
For how many months?
Probably 2 months, maybe. I don't know
2 months.
exactly.
Sir, in the past, Caroline has made efforts to contact you, but you blocked her, correct? Yes
I don't
or
know
no?
if I would call. I don't know if I would call 1,000 phone calls and text messages efforts to contact me.
And you'll be able to produce for me all those telephone records that she called 1,000 times, correct?
Yes, I can.
Okay, sir. You also blocked her on the iPad, correct?
Yes.
So if you blocked her on her cell and on the iPad, you would agree with me that there's no way that Caroline Cardenas can have contact with your daughter, yes or no?
That's correct. Right now, I've taken steps to protect Selena's emotional state and shield her from the stress that's caused by her mother contacting her.
Oh, okay, all right. So because you are trying to protect her, you decided to override Judge Salas' order, yes or no?
No, I was told that once this de novo hearing was filed, that the
I'm
previous.
sorry, I didn't hear you.
I was informed that once this de novo hearing was granted, that the previous motion or the previous order was voided.
So because Caroline Cardenas says the de novo, Judge Salas' orders are no longer valid, is that what you're telling me?
Yes,
Sir, were you aware that even if a person takes a de novo hearing, those orders signed by a judge remain in effect? Did you know that?
no, I did not know that.
And you're claiming that you're trying to protect your daughter, correct?
I am.
Have you sent your daughter to a therapist, psychiatrist, or psychologist?
I set her up to have a referral for her to be evaluated as per the court order.
Objection, non-responsive.
Sustained.
I thought that was a response, Your Honor.
Okay, I sustain the
Sir.
objection. Go ahead.
Sir, what psychologist, psychiatrist, or therapist have you had your daughter visit since the entry of those temporary orders?
I can get the name for you, but we had an appointment in person at the Madigan Army Health Center here at the base I'm stationed at. So, and they
Sir.
granted us a referral.
Sir, you're willing to provide me records of that visit, correct?
Yes,
Sir, can
Okay,
you
and
spell the name that you just said of the center you took your daughter?
it's Madigan, Madigan, and it's a Army hospital.
and what was the reason again that you took her there?
That was per the court order.
I'm sorry, part of the what?
That was part of the court order that we had.
Okay. And how many times has your daughter gone to this Madigan Center?
Just the one time.
Just the one time. Did they ask for any follow-up visits?
They asked if they
Yes or
referred me-
no?
No,
They did not.
no,
Okay, was your daughter given any therapy?
no,
Was your daughter given any medication?
no.
Okay, so in a 5-month span, you took your daughter to Madigan Center, correct?
Yes.
When did this happen?
The date of her appointment?
Yes.
I can look it up and tell you. I have it in my calendar.
Well, was it when you got to Washington?
Yes, it was in Washington.
Yes, but when?
It was on August 8th.
August the 8th. And there have been no visits since August the 8th, correct?
Correct.
And you have not sought the services of any other psychologist, psychiatrist, or therapist, yes or no?
I have not, no.
Okay, sir, how does it help your daughter by continuing to deny your wife access and possession to your daughter?
My aim isn't to deny contact. It's just to provide peace for her right now. She's gone through a lot, and I just really am focusing on getting her emotional, just her emotional state, get her the skills to be able to deal with all these changes.
Sir, you just told me that there's no need to see a psychologist, a psychiatrist, a therapist, and yet you're telling me now she's going through a lot. Tell me, what is it that your daughter's going through?
Well, she's had to move, switch schools. She's in a new place, make new friends. You know, her brother
And
went
that
back
was
home.
because, I'm sorry, that's because you took her without informing your wife. Isn't that true?
That's true.
You took her to a different city where she has no family. Yes?
Yes,
You have no family there, correct?
correct.
And you took her to a different school where she doesn't know anybody. Isn't that true?
She has friends now, but correct.
And all that turmoil that you're testifying to was caused by you and not by your wife. Isn't that true?
It was caused by my employment, just the nature of my job. We move every 2 to 3 years.
I get it. But how is it that you are punishing your wife by disallowing any possession and access and allowing her to talk to your daughter 3 times since that order was entered?
I would be more than willing to do daily contact visitation in a supervised environment.
Sir, that's not what Judge Salas ordered. He ordered your wife to have access every day. But you're
Yes.
sitting here, I will allow it as if you have more power than Judge Salas. That's what
I
you're
don't-
telling me.
When I said allow, I meant that I unblocked her and set it up to where they could communicate.
Sir,
Hey, she's available to speak.
and up until now, you
I'm
still have
not
blocked-
giving her, I'm not giving Selena permission to speak to her mom. She doesn't need my permission to speak to her mom.
but she doesn't need your permission when you block her. Isn't that right?
Now she doesn't, she, like I said, she has no interest in speaking to her. Every time it's been a very traumatic for her.
And who made that decision that she has no interest?
She did.
She did. A 7-year-old tells you as a parent, no, I don't want to speak to your mom. That's your testimony today, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And yet you've sought no services of a professional, right?
I have gone to the professional and they just deemed it that she didn't require any type of care unless I felt that it was necessary.
Sir, the bottom line is you have disobeyed Judge Salas's order, correct?
I was under the, like I said before, I was under the impression that that order was void. You've told me that it is still valid. Had I known that, I would have complied with that order.
Okay. And you, nonetheless, okay, you've caused harm between your daughter and your wife, correct?
I don't think so, no.
Sir, when did you, those 3 times that your wife talked to your daughter, you monitored those calls, correct?
I monitored them once my daughter became emotionally upset.
All right. And as a father, did you not feel an obligation to call your wife and say, hey, we've got a problem. Your daughter doesn't want to talk to you. When did that happen?
It didn't happen.
It didn't happen. So how is your wife supposed to guess that Selena supposedly doesn't want to talk to her?
I've said that to her, like when they
When?
were on the phone. I
When?
have, Carolyn's called me. She got a new number and has called multiple times and called my command here. She's violated the protective order since the day that I was granted it.
She violated the protective order?
Correct.
Did you call your lawyer and said, hey, this crazy woman, my wife, violated that protective order? Did
I
you
did
do
not.
that?
No.
Okay. Don't you think it's important if Caroline Cardenas is violating that protective order, that Judge Gutierrez or Judge Salas be made aware that she's not complying with the order?
I agree. I went to the police station and filed the police report and just never heard back.
And you're willing to provide me with a copy of that police report that you made, correct?
We can obtain it.
No,
I
I'm
spoke with
asking you, you can provide it since you filed it, right?
I don't have a copy of it, but yes, I
When
went
did
into
you call the police and file this report?
it was while I was still in El Paso.
It was in El Paso
It was
When?
before I left. Before I left.
before you left,
Yes.
before or after the issuance of a protective order?
It was after.
After. And again, you can provide me with a copy of that, correct?
Yes.
Give me the date that you called the police.
When I called, they weren't able to do anything for me as I lived on military property. The military doesn't enforce protective orders against civilians. So I had to actually go in person to the Pebble Hills Police Department and do the police report in person. I was called back a few weeks later by Detective Cassandra Sanchez. She called me in. I made a statement. I provided her a thumb drive of all the records of the calls and text messages. And then from there, I haven't heard anything. And I've called and
Sir.
emailed, and it kind of just went away.
Sir, nonetheless, you can provide me with a copy of that statement that you gave the police,
Yes.
okay? Do you have any legitimate reason why you should continue to disallow any communication between your wife and your daughter?
No. They can, I'm okay. I would,
You're
I think
okay.
they should be allowed to speak. Like I said, I would prefer supervised.
Hey, sir, Judge Salas heard your testimony and didn't require any supervised visit. Isn't that true?
Yes.
If your wife were to fly to Washington or drive there, she could see the child without supervision, correct?
Per the judge's order, yes.
And that protective order has nothing to do with supervised visit, yes?
I don't know how it would work because the protective order is for me. It's not for Selena. So we would have to figure out a way for her to see Selena without violating the protective order.
So you're telling me that if your wife sees Selena, she violates a protective order. Is that what you're telling me?
No, I'm just saying that that's something that we would have to probably, that'd be a hurdle to overcome with a third party or some type of supervision.
But Mr. Cardenas, there's nothing in the order that requires that visit to be supervised, correct?
Correct.
Your Honor, for time's sakes, I will pass the witness.
Okay, Mr. Navejas?
Okay. What is your current rank in the military, Mr. Cardenas?
Sergeant Major.
Okay. And are you planning on retiring, or how much longer are you going to remain in the Marines?
I'm on a 2-year contract right now, and within the next 12 months, I'll have to decide if I want to continue my service or submit for retirement.
Okay. And you are in Washington for those 2 years, or can you be deployed or sent elsewhere?
I cannot be deployed. I'm in a non-deployable billet right now. I will be in Washington for 2 years.
Okay. And Judge Salas heard both you and your wife's testimony previously, correct?
Yes.
And he determined that it was in the child's best interest to remain with you in Washington, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And do you believe it's in your child's best interest to remain in Washington?
Yes.
Okay. And do you have concerns about your wife's mental health?
I do.
Okay. And you testified that she violated the protective order. In what ways has she violated the protective order?
She's called my family multiple times. She's called the police on my family in Tucson, and had welfare checks done on them. She's called me, texted me hundreds of times. She's called my chain of command, our duty number. She's made every attempt to interfere
I'm gonna stop you, Mr. Cardenas. When you say she called your chain of command, was that in El Paso or in Washington?
That was in both. That's both.
Okay. And is she still calling your chain of command?
I haven't heard anything recently. After the first time, though, I was notified that she called, but I assume anything follow on, they would probably not notify me.
Okay. And do you know if your chain of command would be willing to testify that she calls?
It's possible, but they may need to be subpoenaed.
Okay. And what about your former chain of command in El Paso?
They would probably provide some type of documentation, but from what I understand, most of those leaders have moved on, either retired or moved on to other posts. They would be a little bit more difficult as they're in another branch.
Okay, understood. And you testified that you're requesting that the telephone calls between your wife and your daughter be supervised. Why should they be supervised?
I think just to ensure that they stay peaceful, that Selena doesn't feel like she's being put in the middle between us and being used as like a go-between to pass messages or feel like she's having to kind of pick, mom or dad. I think it would just make her feel safe if she knew that there was somebody there who wasn't going to allow Kara to say or do something inappropriate that may make her feel comfortable.
What is your daughter's current daily schedule like in Washington?
Her daily schedule now, she goes to school every day. They have a late start on Wednesdays. And then after school, she's in an after school program where they play games and they have music and they have all these activities for them at the after school program on base. And then Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, she has jujitsu, the kids' jujitsu class in the local area. And then about every other week, we have a horse riding lesson.
Okay. And what time do you pick her up on a daily basis, or do you pick her up?
I pick her up usually around 5 o'clock, between 5 and 5:30 is when I pick her up from her after school program.
Okay. And what do you do once you pick her up?
Once I pick her up, if it's a normal day, we just come home and we do homework. We get ready for the next day. We talk about how the day went. We make dinner together and really just either spend time, we read. Sometimes we play video games or we watch a show. And then she's usually in bed by 8 and we do it again. And then on Tuesdays and Thursdays, we go straight from the daycare program to jujitsu.
Okay. And I guess I have to ask, you testified that your wife has called you hundreds or thousands of times since the protective order. Have you asked her to stop?
Yes.
Okay. And are you asking that she be restrained from contacting your family?
Yes.
And are you asking that she be restrained from contacting your chain of command?
Yes.
Okay. And has her phone calls to your chain of command impacted your career at all?
Not at this time. They're aware of what's been going on, but it is they expect it to be resolved. It can't be an ongoing thing where she's constantly doing this, and at some point it will affect my career. Yes.
Okay. And what do you believe is in your best interest, your daughter's best interest with respect to her mom?
I think daily communication, like we talked about, supervised would be appropriate, and I think that could be really good for Selena. In-person visits as well. I know that's very difficult right now, just given the circumstances, but I would be open to in-person visits as well, supervised. Beyond that, I can't really. I think that would be right now what is in Selena's best interest.
Okay, if there were in-person visits that were ordered, should you have to pay or foot the bill for any of that cost?
I would be okay with splitting it.
Okay, so if there were in-person visits ordered, you would be okay with paying either for Selena to go to her mom or for Selena to return to you?
Correct.
Okay. And how often would you be amenable to those in-person visits taking place?
If they were where she had to fly to Texas, it would more than likely have to be maybe twice a year, like a Christmas break and then summers. It would more than likely have to be maybe twice a year, like a Christmas break and then summers. That would be what we could commit to. If we were closer together, then it could be more frequent.
Okay. And is there anything stopping Miss Cardenas from moving to the state of Washington to be closer to her daughter?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. And how many different locations have you and Miss Cardenas lived in?
Let's see.
Approximately, if you don't know the exact number.
It's been about 5.
Okay. And that's in how many years of marriage?
That's in 8 years.
8 years? So every year and a half or so, you're moving someplace new?
Pretty much. That's how it averages out.
Okay.
Texas was only meant to be a 1 year, a 1 year tour, but typically it's 2 to 3. But yeah.
Okay. And are you surprised Miss Cardenas wishes to remain in El Paso?
I am surprised. That's concerning, given that she spoke that she didn't particularly enjoy Texas and that she couldn't wait to leave. So it's definitely surprising to hear that.
Okay, and you had previously testified about an incident where your wife tried to jump out of the vehicle. What happened?
Yes. So we were, she had talked about wanting a vehicle. I had gotten some calls from her father stating that she wanted to, you know, that he mentioned that she was going to come home or that he was going to allow.
Objection to hearsay.
Sustained. You can't tell us what anyone told you, sir, other than your wife.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
My wife made plans to visit, to go home. I'm not sure if it was to visit or for long term. I never got to the answer to that. She mentioned that she would need a vehicle and thought that it would be a good idea to get a vehicle in Texas compared to where her family lives, just because it's a drier climate. Cars are, I guess, in a little bit better condition. I did not agree to purchase a vehicle. I said we could look at them and then have a discussion, and that I wouldn't be pressured or bullied into making a purchase before we even went that day. We went
Did
and
she
looked
attempt
at.
to pressure you into buying a vehicle?
She did.
Okay, and was that what caused her to be upset?
Yes. When I refused to buy her a vehicle on the spot, she was very upset, and that's when the argument, the disagreement started.
Okay, and at some point, it's your testimony that she attempted to jump out of a moving vehicle?
Yes.
And did that concern you?
Greatly, yes.
And did you call or report that incident to anybody?
I did.
Who did you do? Who did you call?
I initially called El Paso police requesting a crisis unit. However, because we resided on military property, they were unable to respond. And the military first responders were the only ones, I guess, available or authorized based on the jurisdiction. And they don't have a crisis unit. It's really just military police officers, which are soldiers, and then a civilian fire department. They're the ones who responded, and they were more concerned that she may have had injuries, which she didn't actually jump out of the vehicle. She attempted to. So they were under the impression that she had actually jumped out. But when they saw that she wasn't injured, they just let it go.
Okay, and at this time, Your Honor, in the interest of time, I'll pass the witness.
Okay, Mr. Salivar, anything else of this witness?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Cardenas, you called the military police when this alleged incident happened about your wife trying to supposedly jump out of a moving car, correct?
I didn't call the military police. I called the El Paso dispatch office, just 911 for them, and they routed it to the military police.
Sir, nothing happened regarding this incident, correct?
No, nothing happened with Carolyn as far as
Your
being,
wife was not taken to be examined by a doctor, correct?
the military doesn't have the authorization to do that for civilians.
That's not my question. I asked you when you contacted the dispatch, you made a call alleging that your wife tried to move out of a moving car, correct?
Yes.
Are you aware that anything happened after you made that call? Whether your wife was taken for evaluation at a local hospital?
No.
It didn't. Nothing happened, right?
Correct. Nothing happened.
Okay. And then also you were asked by your lawyer, do you know of any reason why your wife can't move to Washington, correct?
Correct.
Has it occurred to you she has no money, correct?
I'm not aware of her financial situation.
And she has no job. You've heard the testimony, correct?
The last I heard, she had a job.
Okay. And sir, there was only one vehicle in the marriage, correct?
At the time of separation, yes.
Yes. And that vehicle was used by you, correct?
It was shared.
But sir, it was you who made you drive it, correct?
After a few incidents of her not sharing the vehicle, I had to basically stop letting her use it
You pulled rank on her and said she was no longer going to use that vehicle. Isn't that right?
I had to do that after I had an assessment, and she took the vehicle to Mexico to purchase some type of substances. And I ended up missing my assessment, and it was impacting my schooling. And at that point, I had to maintain control of the vehicle. And that
And you
wasn't the
had to
first time she had done that.
And you had to maintain control of her, correct?
No, she had the freedom to do whatever she wanted to do. I just wasn't going to allow her to take the vehicle during the school day when I needed to get, to do my academics.
Sir, when you say she had the freedom, isn't it throughout the marriage you have controlled every action that occurs during the marriage, correct?
No,
And she has faithfully followed you. Isn't that right?
no,
And if she said, I need a car so that I can find a job, it was up to you whether you were going to get a car or not. Yes or no?
no,
Your wife depended on you for food, clothing, and shelter, correct?
no.
She wasn't working, so how was she going to get food, clothing, and shelter if she didn't depend on you?
There was a time where she worked throughout the marriage. There was a
That's
lot
not my question.
No.
When you got this protective order, Caroline Cardenas was depending on you for food, clothing, and shelter, yes or no?
I'm not sure.
So- what?
I'm not sure.
Okay, sir, she had to depend on you for transportation, correct?
For access to the vehicle, yes.
Okay. And you feel that it's in the best interest that your daughter stay in Washington, correct?
Yes.
And my final question, you told Judge Salas that it was in the best interest of your daughter that you get custody because your daughter was crazy, correct?
No, my daughter's not crazy.
Your wife was crazy. Is that what you told Judge Salas?
No, I've never used those words.
Sir, did you provide the CPS worker with any documentation regarding your wife's mental health?
Objection, Your Honor. That was asked and answered previously.
I'm asking, did you provide her with anything?
Can overrule the objection. Did you, sir?
I don't remember if I did. I don't think so. The answer is no. I would say no.
Okay, I have no further questions, Judge.
Any other questions, Mr. Navejas?
No questions of this witness, Your Honor.
I have a question. Sir, why did you feel you could take your daughter without notifying the mother?
After speaking with Martina Murillo, the CPS worker and my attorney, they just told me that there was nothing barring me from taking her from the state. As far as informing her mother, anytime that I attempted to contact her was just met with a lot of hostility and threats. And I just was never able to have a conversation with her about what I needed to do. I just felt that I needed to protect Selena and kind of just go from there and work it out,
I don't believe you.
when the time came.
Okay. So you wanted to work it out when the time came, but you blocked her. So how were you going to work it out?
She wasn't always blocked. There's been multiple times where I unblocked her and was open to having conversations. And every time that we would attempt to talk, she would either try to use some type of extortion. Even prior to this hearing, she claimed that she was going to extort me. That if I didn't, give her money or comply with her wishes, that she was going to report things to my chain of command to try to get me in trouble.
Okay. Any questions in light of my questions?
Sir, why are we hearing just allegations of extortion for the first time?
I mean, I don't think they're necessarily relevant in the case of Selena's custody.
Sir, the judge asked you a question. Did you took your daughter without informing her of your intent to take her out, correct?
Yes.
And you're telling the court that you did it because your wife had threatened to extort you, correct?
That's just what has happened. That's happened recently, more recently.
Recently, before
That's
the,
happened.
after
That's
the
It's
protective
happened
order
throughout
was
the whole.
issued?
It's
Okay,
happened throughout the whole. time.
one at a time, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Sir, this happened after the
It
protective
has
order
happened
was
after.
issued?
It has happened after.
After?
It has happened after. Yes.
How would she harm you if there's a court order giving you primary custody? How would that threaten you since you had your daughter? Explain that to me.
She claims that she has some kind of evidence or she has access to some type of information that she claims is harmful to me that I'm just not aware of. I mean, I
When
have
did
to
this
protect.
happen?
The most recent time was, you pull up, I've got a few voicemails
Okay,
from her.
that's okay. Don't worry. Anything else of this witness?
No, Judge.
Mr. Navejas?
No, Your Honor.
No? Okay. All right, Mr. Salivan, call your next witness, please.
I believe there's a CPS worker, Ms. Murillo.
Okay,
She would be my next witness.
okay. There she is. Miss Murillo, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, all right. Please raise your right hand.
Okay.
Okay. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you give today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yeah, I will.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Saliva.
Give me your full name, please.
Martina Murillo.
And Ms. Murillo, how are you employed?
I'm employed with the Texas Department of Protective and Family Services as an investigator.
How long have you been employed with CPS?
I've been employed for a little over 4 years.
4 years.
Mhm.
And in the capacity of an investigator, is that what you're telling me? For 4 years, you've been an investigator?
I've been a conservatorship worker, and for investigator, it's been about a year and a half.
Year and a half as an investigator.
Correct.
You did an investigation in this case, did you not?
Yes, I did.
Who did you talk to in your investigation?
I spoke with Ms. Cardenas. I spoke with Selena, and then I spoke with Mr. Cardenas.
Were you provided with any medical records reflecting the mental condition of Ms. Cardenas?
The mental condition of Ms. Cardenas,
Yes.
no, because she did not actually get any medical. She didn't go to emergency health care, but she was advised to engage in services through a third party.
That's not my question, ma'am. We never got any medical records from Caroline Cardenas where she saw a psychiatrist, a psychologist, or a therapist.
No, I did not, sir.
Don't you think that would be critically important?
I was assessing the safety of the child.
Okay, let's talk about that, the safety of the child. You have no medical record reflecting mom's mental condition, but you were concerned about the safety and welfare of this child, correct?
That's what the investigation began. We did receive a report.
Ma'am, did you issue a safety plan?
A safety plan? No.
If you had concerns about the well-being of this child because of mom's mental health, you didn't find it necessary to issue a safety plan and say mom should not be with child because of mental illness. You didn't do that, did you?
Not at that moment because she was with an appropriate parent.
Did you make any findings that she was an inappropriate parent?
Conversations, actions, other interviews that I gathered with other collaterals.
Okay, let me talk to you about your other contacts, collateral. Who else did you talk to in this case?
Well, I don't know if I'm at liberty to state anyone else that I contacted. I don't know if you requested the records from my
Well, I
investigation.
can, ma'am, I can certainly subpoena you to provide any records. Well, let me ask you this. Did you do any records in this case?
I'm sorry?
Did you create any records as a result of your investigation?
What do you mean by that? I'm not
Yes.
understanding what you're.
Real simple. You're an investigator. I'm asking you, in your role as an investigator, did you generate any reports?
I did in my investigation. All my information is in the investigation itself.
And sir, I'm sorry, ma'am, and you have those records in your possession.
Not in my possession. The department does. You can request those.
Okay, and you would, they can be accessed, correct, through a proper subpoena?
Correct.
And in those records or reports that you generated, did you write down anything reflecting the mental condition of Caroline Cardenas?
There are some concerns. There is some information regarding that in those
The
records.
concerns and reservations. Did you put those concerns in that report?
I just finished saying that they are in that report.
Okay.
They're in the information as part of the investigation.
And in those reports, did you mention that there were no medical records that you reviewed concerning Ms. Cardenas' mental health?
I'm pretty sure I did. I included information as such, but and then also information as to any other information that I was provided by other collaterals.
Okay,
So,
okay.
I mean,
Yes.
that information is there and it's available, you know.
Okay, let me ask you this. Did you talk to Mr. Cardenas about his wife's mental condition?
Did I asked them.
Okay. Did he provide any documentation to you reflecting his wife's mental condition?
I don't believe I received
You
anything.
don't believe so?
No,
Did
that can't
any
be.
collateral, listen to me, did any collateral source provide you with any medical records concerning Caroline Cardenas' mental health?
No, because I did not have a medical consent or release of medical records from her.
Okay, ma'am, so you don't have medical records provided by Mr. Cardenas. Your collateral sources didn't provide you with any medical records regarding her mental condition, and certainly Ms. Cardenas never provided you with any medical records regarding her mental condition. Right?
Okay.
Right? So none of those collateral sources, Mr. Cardenas, Mrs. Cardenas never provided you with any medical records concerning her mental condition, right?
She was instructed to
That's
engage
not
in
my question.
services.
Objection, non-responsive.
Sustained.
Ma'am, answer my question. You have no medical reports from either Mr. Cardenas, Mrs. Cardenas, or your collateral sources that says that she has a mental condition, right?
I did not receive any at that time. No, sir.
Okay? And there is no safety plan.
There was no reason for a safety plan, sir.
There was no reason. Why was there no reason?
They were, I don't know if I'm at liberty to state where they were at. I don't know.
Let
I
me
think
give
I
you a
just need to know,
hypothetical.
were the allegations ruled out, or did you find a reason to believe? What was your
No,
finding?
it was ruled out. Well, so it was an alternative response, Judge. It was an alternative response case, and there's no validation.
Okay.
There was no validation. In other words, you never issued a report saying that the allegations, there was reason to believe or not to believe, yes or no?
There was no validation, sir. I just finished explaining that to the judge.
In fact, there
I
was
understand what
no-
that means.
right? So when I don't know if you want me to explain, Judge, what how the case came in.
Okay, go explain it to me.
Okay, so the case came in as an alternative response. It's a new approach through Texas Department of Protective and Family Services. So we assess the family, we assess their needs, and if it's required and needed, then the case transitions into an investigation. Okay, Ms. Cardenas and child were in a safe place at that time when I did interview them at the beginning of the case, and therefore there was no need for us to transition this into an investigation. Therefore, there is no validation. There's no reason to believe. The case did come in under against Mr. Cardenas, so there was no reason for me to place a safety plan against Mr. Cardenas, and that's what I'm trying to explain to counsel.
Can I follow up?
Oh,
You
yes, go
said
ahead.
you said there was no validation. What does that mean?
Okay, so when I just finished explaining, the case came in as an alternative response, meaning that we work with the families. We assess their the concern of the department of how the intake of it, and if it requires for us to transition any case into an investigation, then that's where there will be a validation. That's where will be a disposition, meaning there will be a reason to believe or a rollout. In this situation, it was not.
Ma'am, let me give you a hypothetical. Suppose that there had been a reason to validate, what course of action would you have had to follow?
I would have had to transition this case into an investigation.
But that never happened, correct?
Correct, because there was no need. So the report came in against Mr. Cardenas, and there was no concern for Selena to be under the care and custody of Mr. Cardenas.
Let me throw this hypothetical at you. In your investigation, had you found out that the child's safety and welfare was jeopardized because of mom's condition, you would have had to do something with that, right?
I would have, under the alternative response, we would be working with the family, correct? Yes.
But that never happened, right?
So the situation of Ms. Cardenas and Selena, and this is what I don't know if I'm at liberty to state where they were at, because at that point of my investigation, we were not, I could not disclose their location.
Okay, all right. Ms. Murillo, all right, so you were called to invest on an allegation against dad.
Correct.
Okay, so you found nothing there.
No.
All right. And so I know that mom was at a shelter with the child. I know that. We all know that.
Okay, correct.
Okay. All right. So what is it that you need to explain?
So what I needed to explain was that at that time there was a lot of back and forth regarding how Selena was going to be having contact with dad, right? And so Selena ended up with dad due to an eye infection that she had.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
That's not true.
I'm
An
sorry, I
eye
didn't hear
infection.
that.
An eye infection that's a
An
child.
eye infection. Correct, right. So dad did take Selena for the follow-up. Mom took her originally to the ER, and dad took her to the for the follow-up appointment. At that point, that was on or about June the 3rd. And from that point forward, Selena was with dad.
Okay, Mr. Sandivar?
Yes. Were you aware that a protective order had been issued?
Against Ms. Cardenas?
Were you aware that a protective order had been issued against Ms. Cardenas?
Yes, that was part of the information that was received in the investigation. Yes.
Were you aware there was no court order allowing custody to Mr. Cardenas? Were you aware of that as well?
That's not stated on the protective order. The protective
Okay.
order state,
Did Mr. Cardenas tell you that he had primary custody?
Mr. Cardenas didn't tell me that. I read the protective order, and our legal team also read the protective order.
And what does that protective order say regarding custody?
I don't recall exactly verbatim, as this case is from May.
Would
I don't
it
have it.
surprise you, ma'am, would it surprise you that a protective order does not give primary custody to Mr. Cardenas? Were you aware of that?
I never stated that it did.
Okay, were you aware that Mr. Cardenas, without informing Ms. Cardenas, took the child to Washington without telling her? Were you aware of that?
He didn't take her to Washington without her knowing. Ms. Cardenas was engaged in services according to the shelter, where she was supposed to begin services for her mental health. I could not
Ma'am.
provide that to you, sir, because I was not aware that you knew or everybody knew where she was staying at.
Ms.
Until
Murillo,
right now.
were you aware that Mr. Cardenas just testified under oath that he took her without notifying Ms. Cardenas? Were you aware of that?
Right. So he is a primary parent. He is
Where is this at? Where did you get this that he's a primary parent? Do you
well,
have read in
he is a parent of Selena. So
Right. But you just said that he is a primary parent. Where in the world have you seen
I
a
misspoke.
document?
I misspoke, sir. I
You
misspoke in the
misspoke,
primary.
right?
The primary.
Yes.
Mhm.
And in fact, you believed everything he told you about his wife's mental condition. Yes or no?
I'm sorry?
You believed everything because Mr. Cardenas told you so, correct?
No.
Okay. Your Honor, I have no further questions.
Okay, Mr. Navejas?
Right.
Go ahead, sir.
Okay, sorry about that, Judge. I had to charge my headphones. They had died on me. Okay, Ms. Murillo,
Yes, sir.
do you have any concerns with the child remaining in Washington under the sole care of her father?
I do not.
Would you have any concerns if this court were to order the child to come to live exclusively with her mom in El Paso?
Actually, you know, as an investigator, I would.
And why are you concerned about Ms. Cardenas being the sole parent to the child?
So my concern would be her stability, her mental health and not engaging in services. Also, you know, she did admit to me of using substances. So
By substances, do you mean legal or illegal substances?
marijuana.
Okay. And is that the only substance she claims
That I
she
was
used?
yes, that I was aware that she admitted yes.
Okay. And if there were no medical records provided to you, what caused you concern for her mental health?
So in speaking to staff at La Posada home, you know,
I'm
they're
going
the
to
one-
object to anything that's based on hearsay.
Okay, yeah, you can't tell us what anyone told you other than the
Okay.
parties.
Okay, so that's part of my investigation. So any collateral contacts or any information that I received, it was part of my investigation. That's what I based my decision on. So
Okay, and were any of your concerns of her mental health based on your personal interactions with Miss Cardenas?
Correct. Yes. So there was several calls that she would contact me frantically about Mr. Cardenas, and her calling for a welfare check with the military police. The military police going to his RV and not having, or there were no findings of any wrongdoing. So those were concerns, of the constant calls.
Okay, and did you recommend that she seek mental health assistance?
At that point, through La Posada, yes.
Okay, and are you aware if she ever took advantage or engaged in those recommendations?
I don't believe she did.
Okay, and would it still be your recommendation to this court that Ms. Cardenas be ordered to seek mental health therapy or counseling?
Yes, I think it would be helpful for.
Okay, and did you notice if Ms. Cardenas was prone to any mood changes or anything like that, suggesting she was having mental health crisis or episodes?
In person, I did not, but just by phone, the conversation sometimes that I would have with her by phone, but not in person. I didn't observe that in person.
Okay, and did you catch either of these two parties lying to you?
I don't believe so. They both had, Mr. Cardenas was not providing me with any information to derogatory information about Ms. Cardenas, or spoke of her in any such, in any way. Ms. Cardenas, the same. The only, I think, her concern, was just, my concern with her was just the constant calls of, to military police, as if to get her husband in trouble. That's what it made it, made me believe in that.
Okay, and if you were to tell the court, if you had to pick one person that it would be in the child's best interest to reside with, who would that person be?
Judge, she's not qualified to make that decision, Judge.
I'll allow it. Overruled. Go ahead.
I would request that she be placed with Mr. Cardenas, that she
Okay.
remain with Mr. Cardenas.
And over the course of how long did your investigation take place?
It was over the course of a little over 2 months.
Okay, a little over 2 months.
Mhm.
And approximately how many collaterals did you speak with without
I-
naming them?
I spoke to about 6 collaterals or so.
Okay, and are you able to speak if these were relatives of either party?
Relatives, some were, others were professionals, medical professionals.
Okay, and the relatives you spoke with, were they relatives of Ms. Cardenas, Mr. Cardenas, or both?
With both.
Okay. All right. And the professionals you spoke with, in what capacity were they professionals?
Therapist?
Okay. And were any of them therapists of Mrs. Cardenas or Mr. Cardenas?
No, neither one of them. It was of Selena.
Okay, Selena's therapist.
Yes.
Okay, got it. And how many therapists did Selena have, to the best of your knowledge?
It was only one.
Okay. All right. And do you have any concerns about the child being with Mr. Cardenas?
No, I do not.
Okay. And approximately how many investigations have you done in the year and a half you've done investigations?
Oh, I've done over, let me see, over 200 or more. I mean, we get We get pretty busy. We get about 5 investigations a week or so. No, it's more. It's more than that. It's so
Okay.
we so I've done about 5 investigations per week.
Okay, and how often do you testify in court?
With us here in investigations, unless we remove a child, that's when we testify in court, and it hasn't been that often.
Okay. I'll give you a hypothetical. If Mrs. Cardenas had been separated and estranged from Mr. Cardenas, and the child was residing only with Mrs. Cardenas, would you have conducted an investigation?
Depending on the report, but for the well-being of the child, yes.
Okay. All right. Nothing further at this time, Judge. I'll pass the witness.
Okay, Mr. Sanlivar, anything else?
Yes, briefly. Ma'am, what do you know about Caroline Cardenas' mental history?
Well, I'm not allowed to speak on the gathered information I received from third parties.
Ma'am, you talked to her. She's a party. What do you know about her mental history?
I don't know much about her mental
In
history.
fact, you don't know that. Would it surprise you if I told you that Caroline Cardenas has never seen a psychiatrist, psychologist, or a therapist? Would that surprise you?
Would that surprise me?
Yes.
I can only go based on the information she provided to me, sir.
And she told you that she had never been seen by a psychiatrist, psychologist, or a therapist. She told you that, didn't she?
I would have to go back to my interview.
Well, you're pretty clear on your testimony today, and yet you don't even know if she had a mental history of seeing a professional. Is that what you're telling me?
No, sir, that's not what I'm telling you.
Okay, let me ask you this. You claim that she supposedly admitted using marijuana. When did this happen?
In January
Of what year?
of 2024.
Okay, did you conduct a drug test?
At that moment, no. So when
did you conduct it?
I didn't. It was at the shelter that they conducted a drug test.
Okay, but I'm asking you, did you conduct a drug test? Yes or no?
Why would I conduct the drug test?
Objection, non-responsive.
Well, she already said she didn't, that they did at the shelter.
Right.
Okay. And do you have access to that shelter where they conducted this test?
I don't have access to the records, no, sir.
You don't think that would be important to include in your report?
I did include in my report.
Okay. Let me ask you this, okay? You tell this judge that you made recommendations for Ms. Cardenas to get mental services, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and based on what?
Her actions, her
actions?
her behavior.
Let's stop here.
Comments.
Okay, let's talk about her actions. What actions are you talking about?
So, Ms., during the course of the investigation, the taking Selena from one point to another point with Mr. Cardenas, she made it very difficult for either party to pretty much to transition Selena from Ms. Cardenas to Mr. Cardenas, right?
And how did you make that determination?
What do you mean, sir?
Yes. What made you an expert to decide that Ms. Cardenas was not making a smooth transition with her daughter? How did you determine that?
I just finished saying that because of her behavior. Her behavior.
What behavior are we talking about?
I think I've already addressed that.
What specific behavior are you talking about?
Objection, Your Honor, asked and answered.
I'll move on, Judge.
Okay,
Judge, I have no further questions.
okay. All right, anything else of this witness?
No, Judge.
Nothing,
Okay, all right,
nothing further of this witness, Your Honor.
all right, may she be excused?
Yes, Judge.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Murillo.
Thank you.
Okay, have a good day.
Thank you. You
All
too.
right, any other witnesses, Mr. Saldivar?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Navejas, any other witnesses?
No, Your Honor, we rest and close.
Okay. All right, okay, so this is what we're gonna do. Well, this is not the way I would have handled this case initially. I never reward parents that absconded with children with custody. Nevertheless, here's where we're at, and I don't want to disrupt Selena anymore. So we are going to keep Judge Salas's orders in place. What I am going to change is since Mr. Cardenas took the child, then Mr. Cardenas will be responsible for any and all expenses with regard to travel. So possession and access stays the same. Mr. Cardenas, you need to listen to me. I don't know who's been advising you, but you need to follow my orders. You need to follow Judge Salas's orders, okay? So if that order says she gets telephone call, she gets whatever, you need to follow that, because otherwise you will be held in contempt. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Mr. Saldivar, then that's what we're gonna follow everything that Judge Salas ordered, other than the expense for the travel for the child. Okay, Mr. Saldivar, when can you have that order to me?
Judge, I'll have to, I was gonna ask what's the name of your court reporter? I need your ruling in writing so that I can generate that order from you.
Well, you know what? I mean, all you need to do is look at Judge Salas's letter ruling. And then wherever it says that mom has to pay, just put that dad has to pay. But if you want the transcript, you can always get it.
Yes. Hey, Judge, I'm sorry, who is your court reporter?
Maciel Sanchez.
Okay, I guess, ma'am, if you will give me or provide me with a transcript and the cost for that. And I am going to start discovery immediately and ask for the court for a pretrial hearing so that the court can issue a scheduling order.
Okay, well, that'll be with Judge Salas. This is just the de novo. So yes, that's fine.
Okay, but the jury
Okay.
trial is with,
Judge
You-
Salas can hear jury trials unless
I
you
don't want,
object.
I
Unless you
object.
object to him, then it'll be Judge Sines.
Okay. And that's what I'm gonna do. I'll make sure that we follow up. I don't want Judge Salas to hear the case. I'd
Okay.
rather let Judge Solis hear the case.
Okay, Judge Sines. Okay. All right, sounds good. If there's nothing else, then we're adjourned.
No,
Yes,
EJ
you.
date, EJ date judge.
Oh,
or-
EJ did. Yes, what, let me do next. Can you have it by next week, Mr.? Or when can you have the order, Mr. Saldivar?
I am flooded, Judge. Can you give me 2 weeks?
Okay. 2 weeks would be, not the 7th, the 14th. November
14th?
14th at 1:30.
14th at 1:30.
Yes. Okay. All right. There's nothing else, and we're adjourned.